Good morning. You're very welcome to Awaken the Heart. My name is Sarah St. Clair, and I have a very special guest with me again this morning, a complete delight, Mystic David Hoffmeister.
It's great to be here. It's great to see all the smiling faces in the morning. Ah, yeah. It's the tribe.
It's the tribe.
It's the tribe.
And it's very international. If this is your first time joining us, either on Periscope via David or on LM Virtual or on Zoom, you're very, very welcome. Livingmiracles.org is our host, and LM Virtual is the show base which we use just to share this really good news that all is well. Yeah, and so many of the people who join us come from different pathways, and a lot also come from A Course in Miracles. But you're just very welcome because this experience is for everybody. So this show is called Awake in the Heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we joined a lot yesterday, and then we went into questions from the audience as well, because this is interactive. If it's your first time joining us on Zoom, we may open it up for questions. But you had just been sharing with me that you were going to go see a movie, and I wondered if you wanted to share a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, it was a very profound experience. Occasionally they'll come out with another Jesus movie, and this one was called Risen. And I had watched the trailer, and I noticed that this particular movie was more starting right around the crucifixion, really close, starting at the beginning, right at the very end of Jesus's life, literally hanging on the cross, and then taking it through to all of the story that we know about from some of the other movies, that the Sanhedrin were so concerned that Jesus's followers would come and take the body, and then would go and claim that he's risen, and they'd have a bigger problem than they had. They thought when he was alive, they thought, oh my God, it will grow just followers and legend, and there'll be more upheaval. And so this one has Pilate, and it has a man that works for Pilate, and then his assistant, and it basically reminded me a little bit of that Zero Dark 30 when it's with Jessica Chastain, where they're trying to kill Osama bin Laden, but then the body,
Right.
Identify the body. Well, this was a manhunt for a decaying body, and yet in the context of it was looking for Jesus, and so this man was, he and Pilate thought that all this Messiah stuff was Jewish nonsense, but they knew there was a lot of unrest, and I think the emperor was coming to visit, so Pilate wanted things smoothed out and
Looking
everything.
good.
Yeah, and so he kept putting pressure, and it's a very well-told, well-made story. Another one, Nikita was with me, and Francis and Lisa, but Nikita had some tears, and it was very powerful and very impactful, and especially the search goes on and on and on, and he's looking for any kind of a lead, and then he comes across Mary Magdalene. So the presence of Mary Magdalene is quite strong in this, and he comes to her, and he's got all these questions, and she's basically tells him straight to his face, this Roman man that's given the task to find the body of Jesus. He was given the task to, have a couple of men watch over the tomb, and so he's got to follow through for his responsibilities, but basically he questions her, and at some point she just looks him straight in the eye and just says, you're looking in the wrong direction, which was quite powerful when we know the whole context of trying to find solutions in the world, or trying to make sense of things. And this Roman man, he's doing the best he can, but deep down we know that he even wants to retire outside of Rome and have a family and have a quiet life where there's no death. And so he's got an incentive way down underneath all of this thing of being a Roman and kind of being in charge of keeping the Jews in hand and all of his job, but he wants that deep down. And then at some point he's led to the apostles, and there's Mary Magdalene and the apostles in the upper room, and goes in, and but the last thing he thought he would see actually was Jesus. And so just the look on his face, he is just stunned and staggered, because he was right there looking at him, the dead Jesus on the cross, actually part of putting the final spear in. And so he has this image in his mind of the dead Jesus, and then when he sees this smiling, friendly, gentle, loving Jesus, it just, the dead don't come back. He just has a look almost like he's seeing a vision or an image, or it's just staggering to him. And then that was a good point, because there's a lot of people in the world that have their doubts about the spiritual journey, and doubts about Jesus, and doubts about eternal life, and considering the heaviness of the ego's dark perception and darkened glass. So I think it has a tremendous transfer value, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. And I feel like there's a lot of good teaching movies, but the best movies are when you can give yourself over to go into an experience, a direct experience, and feel that deep reverence and presence. And so, it's very good. And even the preview I'd already seen on the internet of I think a Mexican movie that's coming out, or I saw it maybe when I was in Mexico, the preview, but it's about going to the other end of the spectrum, like a 7-year-old Jesus, and going and emphasizing that part. And I bet it was quite amazing, even as a 7-year-old. We know now with the crystal children and the indigos, how that can be quite striking, especially for parents of indigos and crystals, but for Jesus at 7, so that's another one that's coming around. So we live in an interesting time of amazing tools, as well as our Movie Watcher's Guide. There's some ones that just keep rolling out, and ever since about 2014 we've been in a little bit of a drought for like spectacular movies, back when we had our movie fest, but it's starting to crank up again. I'm like, whoa, here we go.
It's all very biblical now, too.
It's very biblical, yes. And even the new book that's coming out, The Mystical Teachings of Jesus, we talked about that yesterday, and then I go to see that movie, and it's swirling that Christ energy in a strong way of, I am calling you out of the world, be of good cheer. It's like, woo, it's very strong.
You can't help but feel this ancient song feeling coming in everywhere, because that's what our call is for, and everyone just feels like they're joining us in it, like it's a rolling back the rock kind of time, and everybody's in it. And I feel like everyone who joins us here also, that's their call to go deeper and in presence and into the unknown. Just to leave touch with what's been in their awareness of what seems like their daily lives, and cut from that for a moment and just step into this space. So.
I think as you perceive yourself as a human being in this world, you don't really see from the surface that your whole surface of consciousness is resting on this unconscious belief system that you're a body, that you're a man or a woman, you have masculine or feminine traits, that you have skills and abilities, that you have a cultural background and upbringing, and various physical traits and DNA and genetics. All of that's a projection of an unconscious belief system. And so you might say that's really what everybody is praying for every day in their hearts, even if they don't know what the prayer is. They're like, I need a wake-up call, like in Inception, I need a kick. I need, yesterday was our leap year show,
right.
and we're getting into that leap. I need something that's going to trigger me, that's going to activate me from the inside, that's going to light me up. Very much like when you go to hear maybe the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, or a great gospel singer, and the gospel singer or gospel choir is just letting it rip. And some of these churches, everybody's swaying. The energy of love gets activated. Or out there, Alexa, I know you're out there, Michael Beckwith, and all those, like that kind of energy on a daily basis. I mean, really, really fired up and lit up. Because the rolling away the stone thing, the two men, the soldiers that were left there, they had been up for 2 days, and they're like, oh, please, don't forget us. And they fell asleep, and they were drinking, and they didn't know what happened. Finally, we know that there was this blazing light, and it was frightening to them. And the ropes, they had these ropes there. The seals were burst. The ropes were not cut. The ropes were burst. And this big stone, it took 7 Romans just to move it just over the top, over the sepulcher. I always like that word. My favorite word. To roll this big stone over the sepulcher. The rock is way across, maybe 15 feet away from where it was. And it's just inexplicable circumstances. And really, when you think you're a human in a body, and you're dealing with a daily life of minutes and hours and days and weeks and months and years, that you have been so accustomed to a lie, so accustomed to a substitute reality or a substitute identity, it's become so ingrained, so familiar, that you really need a jump start, you need a kickstart, you do need miracles. The only way to really light up is going to be through the miracles. And that's the only thing that's going to do it. So movies like this, even though it's just historical events, so to speak, they are very applicable. And then toward the end of the movie, with Jesus appearing the second time, when they're out fishing and waiting for him, and he's happily kind of walking along on the shore and telling them to throw their net over to the right side because they didn't get any fish, and they got all this fish. But then that's the smiles, the touches, the gaze of what was before a carcass of a man. It's quite amazing, and that's just a symbol of the resurrection in the mind. Again, we're not trying to say, you have to have all these supernatural experiences. I would say miracles are natural, and even revelation is extremely natural. But in this world, it's very supernatural, and it's very rare. But everyone is called to light up with this Christ identity that is who we are. And now we have tools like these movies are spectacular. We have got so many tools, and even this book on the way, it's the mystical teachings of Jesus. Basically I got from Jesus at some point, I was told to put together this book, and I was given a series of questions, and then I was told that I would be able to go to the Bible, and I would be directed to which passages from the Bible that address these questions, and then I would go to the course in miracles, and I would be given passages that would even further clarify. So this book for the early students was highly impactful, and it was impactful for me because for most of us watching here, and most of us together, we have grown up in a Judeo-Christian world, and the Bible has been a huge impact, a huge influence. Even if the ego has hijacked a lot of the teachings and thrown in a lot of punishment, penance, suffering, sacrifice, it's spiced it up, made a real spicy story to turn it. It's like the ego is the ultimate spin doctor. Talk about political spin doctors. It did a spin doctor thing on the Bible, but there's still some really core elements in there. So this really, I would read this book, and then I would be all fired up, and I would just go out on the road, and believe it or not, I was invited into churches and met people all along the way. Some Christians, different walks of life, but a lot of Christians, and I could speak their language because I was so immersed in the presence of Christ and the teachings, and also all the parables were brought to the forefront. So to me that was very important, and my gosh, sometimes you would think I was a preacher going around by the way it would come out of me. I occasionally would give public talks, but a lot of times it was mostly one-on-one with people. We were always uplifted. We were always doing the road to Emmaus, where Christ was with us, and our eyes were lighting up with this, and So I look forward to having everybody be able to partake, if you haven't yet, in this kind of a book, because it's amazing.
Yeah, I think it is. I think you're talking about having access to speaking and meeting with everyone from something that is so inherent in the basic culture we're coming from. It's a way of describing even what you're experiencing using words and phrases that are familiar to them, and just being able to just really just share the really good news. I always think we've got really good news to share. You know, there's a spring in my heart, and it's my own joy that I'm sharing. So there's no teaching of another. There's just it includes everyone, and that's what I've always loved about the teachings of Jesus. It was for everyone.
Yeah,
everyone was welcome into it.
Yeah, and of course, and Sarah, you're from Ireland, and of course the history of the Protestants and the Catholics, and there's a lot of spin doctoring going on to the original Gospels, but there's such a draw to the presence of love that's behind those Gospels. And what I like about this was even a child, an adolescent, could pick this book up and go into the table of contents and get drawn in, because Jesus gave me the questions and then he gave me the content of the answers. That was mind-altering for me, mind-blowing to go through that, the actual answers. But the questions, I don't know, I'm into practicality. I'm just not into theology and a bunch of religion and theology. I'm into experience and practicality. So some of the questions starts off, who is Jesus Christ? If I was picking up a book and I had no idea of who is Jesus Christ, there's the question, and then the answer is amazing. What is my relationship to you, to Jesus? Speak on the parable of the prodigal son. Most of us know about the parable of the prodigal son because it's so familiar in our culture, but what did it really mean? What is the full impact of that? What does the Bible have to say, and what does the Course have to say? Because the Course actually mentions the parable of the prodigal son briefly. It doesn't go into detail, but it's referred to. Please speak about creation and the fall of man. How is fear abolished? Is distorted perceiving, lack of vision, the main problem? And it goes on and asks about the golden rule. What is the devil? Speak on the Beatitudes. What is a miracle? Speak on charity. Does God require any sacrifice?
Always a good one.
That's a good one. What is the meaning of the crucifixion? I mean, this goes on. That's one page, and there's 2, 3. What do all the watch parables mean? Some of you know the Bible about that. Please speak of trust. So it's like 3 pages here of questions, and then the book launches into it. I just found that highly practical in my life. I was raised in the Judeo-Christian tradition. I know Sarah was as well. I was raised in a Protestant denomination called United Church of Christ. I never really lit up in it, but when I came much later in my life, like into my mid and late 20s, particularly the late 20s, it just lit up, like almost like a born-again experience that they talk about, but not just professing a name in Jesus. I mean, from my heart, it just really lit up. So this was like igniting. And I feel like, too, to teach is to demonstrate, so we all have to be lit up in the Spirit. We have to be lit up in joy and in passion and happiness. And that state of mind, our attitude does the teaching. It's not so much the words. The words have to line up with our attitude, because if we just go out and try to give lectures on the gospel, it's like everybody's like, oh, please, how many centuries do we have to listen to another lecture on the gospel? But if you're happy and you're joyful, then that does all your teaching. And there may be words, or there just may be a lot of laughter and hugs.
Yeah, it really gets to the point where there's a complete transfer of the experience. Like during the time where I had been supporting with this book and gathering bits of it together in one of the editions, I had my beautiful Jehovah Witness friends call again at the door, and at this time I was living in the Peace House but on my own. There wasn't anyone around. They came in and they started sharing about like some of the very controversial passages about the goats versus the sheep and gay or not, or different things. And I had this experience where I was so happy and so in love that I could absolutely be in total agreement with absolutely everything that was being said, and yet somehow was saying, it was opening it right up. I don't know what it was,
Yeah.
but it was the most. They just they were just smiling with me, and there was just this joy and love, and there was nothing left but the joy and the love,
Yeah.
and all of the text fell away.
Yeah.
There was just joy and love that
Yeah.
was left.
Yeah. Words are so crude.
Yeah.
I mean, they're helpful to us for a while, but then you get into this rapture kind of experience of love and joy and connection, and you really feel the sameness, like we're all the same. So it doesn't really matter what they're talking about. They could be talking about anything, and there's such love that you join with the truth in them, and it goes way beyond the body, way beyond the words, and it's the most spectacular experience there could ever be. And to me, that's what everybody is calling for. They're praying for that, whether they're even conscious of what they're praying for. They just want to feel the love and that connection. And I've had so many experiences with Jehovah's, Mormon missionaries. I could feel the love and connect right with their heart, and we just rejoiced together, and there was no like trying to split hairs over passages from the Bible or theology. The love just swept us away.
It feels to me a little bit like the movie you're describing, which I haven't seen yet, Risen. Nikita described a little bit to me too, and all I could feel was that even if you're on a manhunt, even if you're seeking vengeance and death, but you're looking for Jesus, you're being so supported in that, in finding Jesus, in finding this experience. Like nothing, it doesn't matter what drew you out to begin this quest of such, or this opening up, like everything can be utilized.
Yeah.
Nothing's in the way. It can be all joined with. And from the description you gave, it's like apostles, everyone's like, I will help you find him, rather than I will keep him hidden from you because of your motivation. I will help you truly find him.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the apostles, when he first came to the apostles, was so happy. It reminds me of some of the people in our community. He was so happy and smiling, and he was getting grilled. The Roman was grilling him, like, have you been to a crucifixion? And he was like, no, I haven't. And he's still smiling, his curly hair, and he said, well, the Roman's like, well, let me tell you about it, and goes into great gruesome detail about it, and then says, you probably weren't there because you probably ran away, so you didn't have to be near such a thing. But still, he says, I want to know the truth of what happened. Were there followers, taking the body and this, and where is that body? The Roman is very determined to find this body, and finally, you see this apostle just get the biggest smile. I said, and you'll set me free if I tell you the truth? And the Roman's like, yes. So he says, everywhere. Where is Jesus? Everywhere. And goes running out the door because he's been told by the Roman, tell me the truth and I'll set you free. And he goes, everywhere. And he's happier than ever. He's zooming out the door into the light. And very striking. Well, later on, the Roman is still, now he's seen Jesus, he's questioning. Still, it's hard to believe, but the apostles are trying to say what they've witnessed around Jesus, miracles and healing of the sick, and all the things, and he's still just questioning, very questioning mind, the Roman. But then a leper comes, and they're beating this leper, some people, and throwing him on the ground and everything, and Jesus stops, goes over, and totally loves the leper, strokes him, embraces in the face and everything, just as like this, and then as the leper gets up and turns back, the face is made whole, the hands are made whole. A very powerful scene. And then the same laughing apostle turns and looks at the Roman man, and he goes, it was like, that's what I'm talking about. Because he actually got to witness what the apostles had witnessed for 3 years. He said, that's what I'm talking about. With the biggest smile on his face, like, you aren't going to believe this. And that's the same Christ energy that we all have, the Christ presence that can heal the sick, raise the dead. For those of you that read the Course, I think that's miracle principle number 23. You can heal the sick and raise the dead because you made sickness and death and can abolish them both. You can abolish depression, addiction, all kinds of envy, fear, jealousy, greed, all the emotions, but also sickness and death as well, because there's no order of difficulty in miracles. So this is really the good news, and this is more bringing what's the presence that was there underneath the Gospels really fully into awareness. And that's really what our function is as miracle workers, is to live it, to breathe it, to walk it, to extend it in everything we think and say and do, without exception. And so literally, if any of you are wondering what this is about, it's like, yeah, it's Jesus saying, I'm calling you out of the world. I'm calling you out of the world of linear time. I'm calling you out of the world of pain, sickness, suffering, and death into eternal life. And I don't know about you, but there's just nothing more important than eternal life. And when I get into that experience of the present moment, the holy instant, or I get into revelatory experiences, then it's just a confirmation that it's all true. Just absolutely all true.
And I always felt that 3 days pause in the story of Jesus between being put in the tomb and the seeming first witness of the resurrection was that, what do you want? Full transfer of training. What do you want? What world do you want to see? And then it was like a decision in the mind that we've been offered in every moment. What do you want to see? What are you looking for now?
Yeah.
And I always felt, rather than being like a test of faith so much, it was just the invitation into the looking. And within this book too, the watch parables have always very much appealed to me, because I always wondered in Gethsemane and that, will you not watch with me? Some versions make it sound like Jesus is somewhat tragic and they're not able to watch with him, whereas it's like, will you watch with me? And it's every moment, will you watch with me? Now.
I see this great transfer now. I've never thought about that, but I do remember that scene from the Bible and from some of the movies about, and it kind of spins it as if Jesus is going through a temptation. He's certainly not being tempted there in the garden, because he's 3 years prior to that he's accepted the resurrection, the atonement of the mind. But how they all sleep. And that's like in our movie Dark City, sleep. He's just saying, be vigilant for God and His kingdom. That's the third lesson of the Holy Spirit in the Course. And that's what he was really calling everybody to, and they couldn't stay awake. It's more, I think, too, the resistance, probably in their minds. Like they could feel, everyone kind of knows ultimately what's coming, and some of those scenes that would come, in the days that would follow, with the arrest and the trial and the walking through the carrying a cross, and then the crucifixion scene. Those are scenes that, as adoring as the apostles were of Jesus, that would be hard for anybody. It would be hard for you to watch those kind of scenes with a best friend, with a husband, a wife, a mother, a father, a child. Anyone going through those kind of things, it would be, there would be resistance. And I think, everybody was kind of aware that the time had come for some pretty heavy-duty seeming scenes, and they just would rather sleep,
right,
and not have it in direct contact. And that's what happens with dreams. Things that you're too afraid to face during the daytime dreams, sometimes you face them at night, in nightmares and night terrors. When you give yourself permission to dream them up in that form and face them in that way.
I think that's another thing I really like about this book, is that it's in bite-sized pieces. I feel it's like a prayer meditation book. You come to a piece and you have the Bible quote that has an equivalent or is further expanded upon with the course quote, and that's it. Your mind, everything, the Spirit is speaking to you for the rest of it. What you previously thought of that quote, what you previously understood from even that sentiment, and how it applies to you instantly. There's a meditation that's occurring, and really it's not about reading a linear book at all, but it's about like dropping into an experience that, and in this bite-sized way, that you could randomly open it and see what the Spirit is, calling you deeper into, because each one is like a very deep portal call.
Yes.
Because it's so clear, it's unequivocal, it's so clear.
Yeah, it's what Sarah's describing. It's like when this book is published this month, the Mystical Teachings of Jesus. It would be something you could like curl up with, like a companion book. It's much smaller than the Course, but it takes you right in with the questions, and then takes you right in with the Gospels, and different parts of the Bible actually as well, and then right into the Course and right into that portal of deep experience. So you may be thinking, well, I've got these jobs and I've got my career and I've got my life and this and this. This is the kind of book you want to curl up with, to go away, go camping, go off to a motel, go off somewhere where you don't have any distractions, turn your cell phone off, and give yourself this intimacy with the presence and just dive into it. You won't come back the same. You won't come back to face the world in the same state of mind or as the same person. It'll be such a turn. And as I always tell people with all of this, your life will never be the same. None of us have a clue how we're going to be used. None of us even saw ourselves doing some of the things we're doing. I certainly didn't see any of this or forecast any of it. But it's really glorious, and I think it takes time to almost like a time out from the distractions and struggles of the world into this nurturing, deep, penetrating experience that changes your mind forever.
And we had a question yesterday about coming into, purpose, and whether purpose came after you get things fixed and tidied up or it came before. And as I was listening to it, I really felt that feeling of purpose is like at the tractor beam. So stepping into purpose is being in the miracle for all of the answers and how everything then unravels and unfolds. So this is first. You step into this first because the joy and the exuberance that you feel, because you already have an attraction to it. So you step into where the attraction is, whether it's this book or this YouTube or this show, and you just step into that and let that take you into the experience. And then from that space, everything else becomes obvious of what's helpful and what falls away. And all you do is allow your hands to be soft and not be trying to grab things back. It just starts my experience is it naturally starts rolling, literally rolling from there. But, there's nothing to be afraid of. From my experiences so far, the fear was just a clenched thought that there would be something, and I can guarantee from my experience so far there was nothing I didn't want coming for me at all. Yeah, actually.
Yeah, it's like the key is your willingness. If you've just got that key in your hand, you can literally reach around and open the gate, and then your willingness takes you on this ride, on this inward journey. It's not so much things or stuff or people, places, things, even books are just reflections of this little key of willingness. But if you've got it, then use it. And then when you use it, it's like, whoa, what have I been missing? What am I beholding? It's just spectacular. It's like, take me away. You just feel like you're lifted up and you just want to give way to the light and go all the way with it. Quite miraculous.
Yeah. Would you like to open up for questions or have a song, or do you have a few?
Maybe we could just see if anybody has anything on your heart or anything that you'd like to share or to ask. See if anybody feels that.
Oh, hi. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Good morning.
I'm today. My lesson today from the workbook is I give the miracles I have received, and I think I understand it, but I'm not sure. So I'm wondering if David, maybe you could say something about that. I think that sometimes. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's Jesus calling.
Oh, I'm very sorry.
Yeah,
it's
you can.
Okay. It's okay.
We can pause.
We can pause. Yeah.
We'll let her go. Candy go back. It's probably Jesus on the other end anyway, so she'll come back. Oh. But yeah, it's beautiful. It's very spontaneous, but I think it starts with that, just the willingness to be used. Just the prayer of the heart. Use me. Guide me. That's kind of feeling is where it all starts, and and then it can be very, very spontaneous. I know even for me, I'm just in a very spontaneous year, and I was just sharing with Sarah that there's a couple gatherings that look like they're coming around the bend here in Australia, down near Melbourne and over up near Sydney, and then there's so many things that just open and open up, but not that we have to know them in advance. And I think that's the part about I give the miracles I have received, that it does remind me that we have to be receivers first, because the miracles are always for us. They're for our mind. They're not for anybody else. It just seems like we extend them to other people and that other people are involved, but the messenger always receives the message first for himself and then gives it and extends it. And that gets away from looking for outcomes too, because when you allow yourself to be used in that way, you feel connected and joyful, and your eyes aren't looking around to see how did it go, or
how did it go down.
How did it go down? You're not. There's not even a thought about that. Just you're swept away in the joy. So that's beautiful.
Yeah, if you have friends that are in Melbourne, we've just gotten word that on the 20th of March that you'll be in Melbourne, and then in Sydney it's on the 26th. So more dates unfolding there, but it's fun just watching things just come towards us. Yeah. And the Freedom Retreat as well, actually, in June. And that sounds like a lot of fun up in the Rockies in Estes Park there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's from the 16th to 19th. So.
Yeah, in the Melbourne area, it's actually Mornington Peninsula, which is a bit of a drive south. It's quite a drive, but that's the area, that's the airport I'm coming into.
Okay, you fly right into the gallery.
And then I go down to Mornington. Actually, it'll be a transport afterwards. After many flights from Guadalajara to Los Angeles to... So, I might even see some of you in L.A. As a 14-hour layover there, and have some miracles and
look at the left
so forth. And then get back on the plane, go all the way to Sydney, then rest a few hours, 3 or 4, then down to Melbourne, and then rest up and start the tour down there.
Yeah, I mean, we've had some friends come to stay with us now who seem to have actually come off this LM virtual screen. So literally the people who are with us now have actually previously seemed to be this side of the seeming mirage. And what's really interesting is they were like, oh, you really don't prepare these shows, do you? Like, I'm sitting here and they're like, do you think David's coming? And we're like, we don't know. We're just going to be here. And that's what you're talking about. Like, there isn't... You're just available to be in that miracle because you're in it first yourself. You received that call and answered it all in one moment.
Yeah. It's. I mean, it's even to try to describe it. It's more like you get into this involuntary flow, and it's like your life as you know it isn't the same. It's got more of a surreal feeling, and it's more like the body's like a puppet, but things just seem to happen, and you're aware that it's all perfect, but it's not a lot of efforting. There's just no efforting with it, because all we are doing is really showing up with willingness to the Spirit to do it through us. And there's even a Course quote that says, it cannot be difficult to do the task that Christ appointed you to do, for it is He who does it. So it's a beautiful line of being humbling. Done through. And again, it's something it's until you experience it, then it sounds a little bit like, I don't know, like you're taken over or something, but in a good way. This isn't the invasion of the body snatchers or some of those movies that that we have in the past. This is really a good thing. In fact, when I even watch those movies now, people will have me watch different versions of invasions of the body snatchers, and I think it's almost like a comedy, because the ego is afraid of being taken over. So I'm cheering on the invisible force that's taking over the bodies, and then when the bodies, the crime goes down, all kinds of things go down, and some of the people are freaking, like there's this invisible force that's calm and serene that's taking over, and the whole society is being transformed. And I'm thinking, this is a transformational movie. This belongs in my movie watcher's guide. Sometimes people have watched the movie with it. They're like horrified, watching the same thing, but they're watching it from upside down perception, and I'm just loving it and thinking, I've got to rename the movie or something, because to me this is like the coming of Christ, and they're calling it the invasion of the body snatchers. So, those are the two perspectives.
Yeah, I think the one with Saoirse Ronan in it, I can't recall the name of it right now, where that's what seems to happen with her and their eyes all go blue, is really good, because it's like, am I supposed to fight this or not? And here I am, I've got this wonderful Irish girl in the role, and I'm like, am I supposed to have an opinion on this? Is there any way in which I'm supposed to fight this? Am I supposed to maintain something? Again, who am I? What am I trying to maintain here? And for myself right now, like this is what I join with Lisa with on a daily basis. Like, is that another bit that you let go? Is there anything I'm supposed to maintain or hold? And she goes, no, it's all Sarah. You can just let it all go. It's just Sarah. And I'm like, okay. So, be, well, I mean, taken over by joy is the invitation.
Yeah. The original invasion of the body snatchers kind of had this thing that would kind of move under the dirt or something, which looked, for most people was a little creepy, but then they made one, I think it was just called Invasion or something. They left the body snatcher part out of it, but that was a completely invisible force.
Right.
And everybody became so serene and peaceful after they weren't dramatic, they weren't screaming, shouting, crime, fighting and everything. So to me that was the one where I just I had to pause the movie a few times, and people were going, oh my God, like, where are you taking this with this stuff? But I think that's what happens with the mind training too. We talk a lot about mind training, and that you can't just click your fingers or click your heels. If you have the power of prayer, really, if you really gave it all you've got and held nothing back with the power of prayer, you could click your fingers or click your heels. But for most people are given a slowly evolving curriculum where you just have to keep at it and keep faithful and keep practicing and do the mind watching and do the mind training. So that's why we have all these great tools for it. And then occasionally, you meet someone who's just there, and then whoa, it's a kind of almost like a transmission or something very direct, like that movie of people meeting Jesus for this Roman man. He, that was very transformative.
Yeah, I when I was on that tour, when I was in England, and I had come with you, and you had been talking at the conference in London, which was beautiful, what you shared there. I happened to go down and visit friends then that were Bridget, and I was down staying at what is a really well-renowned place. It's in Glastonbury.
Oh, yeah.
And I was in Glastonbury, and it was like a wet Wednesday afternoon in Glastonbury. It didn't seem very spiritual or anything, and I was just walking around just open, really. And I literally there was this man standing all dressed in white with a turban, and he was like at least 100 yards away, and I just locked eyes with him, even at that huge distance, and I had this amazing experience of I was just really open, and I don't know, I couldn't quantify what it was, except that was the only reason I was in Glastonbury for the afternoon.
For the whole thing,
for the whole thing, and it was so amazing, just that. And, I feel it's just this, there's like some kind of a safety that comes in the mind, and there's a receptivity, and it's not a specialness with anything. But if you're looking and open, then everything can be truly helpful. I found this book truly helpful. I found all of my joinings with you and all of your YouTubes truly helpful. And it's just, it's kind of, if you come with that presence and that openness and that, I don't know, I haven't got the right word, like a sanctity or a kind of a reverence. If you come with that reverence, then your whole world can shift into this more like fairy tale style you're talking about, but there's a grace within it and a dignity that I never had as a personal self in the world. There's a dignity, there's something that's being carried and is carrying my experience of myself that is beyond me.
Yeah, I know Sarah's had some just amazing mystical experiences, and I do remember that joining we were over there too, because I think at one point too we were to meet, was it Manchester or some part of England, and you just kind of were able to find a ride at the last second and get there and just kind of wait outside the doors, and then the doors opened and Ian and his assistant said, "Oh, come on in," and it reminds me a lot of that woman Susie who was over with me in China. She was a very simple woman. I just had a Skype type chat with her this morning, actually, in China. But she had no money for any of the gatherings, but she would just come and pray and here, just go and stand there. And so she would just stand outside of the gathering, and someone would just inevitably walk up. "Oh, can I help you? Oh, do you need money to go in? Here, take this." It's 7 out of 7 times. She came to 7 of my gatherings. She didn't have the resources to get in for what the organizer had put a price or whatever, and 7 out of 7 times she came in. But that's what we're talking about, the willingness. If you're going to give your life, your soul, your heart to Spirit to use, everything is going to click in. I mean, absolutely everything without exception. And that just goes against all of our past learning, all of our programming, all of our conditioning that goes, "Oh, come on, this is not a fairy tale." But it does seem like an inspired, not a grim fairy tale, but
no grims,
an actual inspired fairy tale when we just go, "Okay, I'm giving it over," and it actually works.
And there's an experience of instant receiving of everything in that giving over of what looked like my so-called life. Like there was this instant receiving of like instantaneous. It's not even like it has to seem to play out over time. There's, in that handing over, there's everything is received in that moment too.
Yeah.
So every time there seems to be that opportunity to leap once more, or if there's a thought that something was held back, then that grace again just pours through. So it becomes everything.
Yeah. Yeah. We're actually, this week we're receiving a man from Portugal, Rafael. He's contacted me. He contacted me a number of times. I put him in touch with Jenny. Jenny had just completed this whole experience with a large group over many weeks at Diva. The place had emptied out. She was the last one there. And Raphael said, "Could I come and spend a little time with you?" So they had some one-on-one time, and he recently contacted me because he's losing all of his 5 senses, 23 years old, going from mystical experiences into pain experiences, mystical pain, and he was just like, "Please, I just need to know that love will not abandon me." It was getting quite extreme, and here it is, through miracles upon miracles of me talking to Kirsten and Suzanne and all these different ones involved. I think if he can make it across on the plane
we'll
from Portugal,
we'll pick him up
at the airport. And this 23-year-old who's losing all of his 5 senses, Kirsten was working with him too about how, that's just a sensitivity phase. Don't worry, there's more miracles coming, and it doesn't end in like mystical pain. Mystical pain, you go more over into the beatific, into the beautiful. And so we're welcoming him into the monastery. So that's joyful for us.
Yeah.
He had nowhere else to go in the world, and even his parents were just praying and praying and praying and praying, like, "Please, God, there's got to be something, someone, somewhere, something, and and then the Spirit works it out, I was amazed he could string some words together, because he was, at times he can't string sentences together. He said, "There's times I start to lose, I can't listen to your speakers, I can't watch your videos. It's like I'm going into the shutdown." But it's the devotion, the torch of devotion. I feel his heart underneath there.
Yeah, and then there's a stabilizing factor that comes when you have those around you who that's not dramatic to them.
Yeah.
It's somehow instantly everything normalizes again.
Yeah.
There's a new sense of what normal is, or natural to
Yes.
you, and therefore then that you can be done through again. So it's not about becoming incapacitated, because the spirit's active through you. So it's not whether the body is quiet or moving.
It all falls away.
Yeah, and I always found that very, gave me a great sense of security in myself, for just having those that would look at you and go,
Yeah.
you know, and it's okay, and do you want toast? So it's just, you know, here we go, and it's very simple.
Yes.
They kept very simple.
Yeah. I'm wondering about Candy. Is Candy, you still there? I didn't know if Jesus talked to you and shared it all on the phone, or whether I can be of service here.
Thank you so much. Sorry about the interruption. My question is around miracles. My lesson for today is basically, I give the miracles I have received. And I guess my mind is having a bit of a hard time wrapping itself around the concept of a miracle. It says here, Christ's vision is the miracle in which all miracles are born. And then later on, it says, Christ beholds no sin in anyone, and in his sight the sinless are as one. Christ's vision is the bridge between the worlds, and in its power can you safely trust to carry you from this world into one made holy by forgiveness. So while practicing this lesson, I guess, like always, I'm wondering what it is that I have to do. I can understand that Christ's vision is a miracle, but how do I share that? If I've received it, why am I not aware that I have received it? And how do I share that with others? It seems like it's a task I'm being given and I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, I can certainly relate. I know that I felt that way too at the beginning of working with the Course, and that prayer at the beginning of the book. It's on, I think, 24 on the first edition and 28 on the second, third, and fourth editions, that I am here only to be truly helpful prayer. It's funny, I've used that prayer so much. I used it when I was clueless. I said, I don't know how to share miracles. I don't even know what this means. I would read through 50 principles of miracles at the beginning and go, wow, that's amazing, but I don't know if I can relate to that. At the beginning I was a bit overwhelmed of thinking, a miracle worker? No, I've never prepared for such a thing. My parents never, they were Christians, but they never said over dinner, you'll go through confirmation and Sunday school and this, and you'll be a good miracle worker, David. It was like, no, get out and get a job and earn some money, that was just more like a ritual. Church was more like a ritual. So it's funny because I was just I mentioned having lunch with Judy Scutch and her husband and some others, and she was saying to me that prayer, which was my lifesaver, it got me going. What you're asking, that really got me going. She said that was not originally in the Course at all. And I said, what? So here I go through the whole book, one of the most important prayers, and she says, no, that wasn't part of the Course. And I said, well, what was it? And it was Bill Thetford was going to speak at a conference, and I don't know if you know the story of Bill. He's one of the first two students of the Course, but he helped soothe Helen Schuckman. But he was Jesus called him a professor afraid of professing, because here he was, he put himself as the head of the department at this Columbia Presbyterian Medical Center, but he hated to teach in the classroom. He put himself in administrative positions because he was so afraid of speaking. And here he had a speaking engagement, and he was so nervous about going in front of a crowd and speaking, because one of the things he hated to do. And so through Helen, Jesus gave him that prayer. I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent him who sent me. And so now, all these years later, I've been with the Course for 30 years, and now I find out it wasn't even part of the book. It got inserted in there from Bill. Again, though, it was a practical thing. He was just like you. He didn't know what to do. And so that was given as a very practical way to set his mind in alignment. to just show up with whatever, even the day, as you wake up in the day. And I found myself praying that and memorizing that and having that roll through my mind, and it was so helpful, so practical. And then another thing, Jesus used puns and everything with Bill because he liked to play on words and whatever, but at one point Bill wanted something that was even shorter than that. He wanted something that was extremely short, that he like really effective, almost like a finger on your hand. It's so close and so short, like your baby finger. And so that whole prayer of "I'm here to only be truly helpful," which is, quite a number of sentences, got shortened down to, Jesus said, "Here, Helen, give this to Bill." And this was the entire prayer. And you can use this one too, because I love it. And the whole prayer is, "Here I am, Lord." That's it. And so that is so simple. My gosh, I can remember that.
Yes.
Here I am, Lord. What it is it's orienting your mind to be useful and to be shown the power that's within you, to be shown the miracles that can come through you and be performed through you, just from orienting your mind and taking it away from fear, because miracles can never be performed in the spirit of doubt or fear. But that here I am, Lord, that was it's got to be the most potent short prayer in history, and it's so effective. So I think that's what I would do. Pick something that really resonates with you, and that you can really embrace, and then just watch what happens from there. It just goes stronger and stronger.
Mm-mm. So if I understand this correctly, the miracle actually is that we're in a state of mind in which what we perceive is basically what Christ perceives, the vision that Christ has. So when we look at a situation or consider the situation we're in, or we're seeing someone, we're not seeing the negative stuff or the positive stuff. We're just seeing truth, the light, basically.
Yes,
Is that what a miracle is?
yeah. The miracle is more like a means, and Christ's vision or revelation or the great rays, whatever you want to call it. Those are all synonyms for the same thing. The light is non-perceptual, so it's almost like if you took all the shadows away, like if you were in a movie theater and you had this powerful light in a projector, and it was projecting through the film the shadows that we see as like everyday life on the screen. It's that light that's in the projector, that's the Christ vision. And so as we're willing to move in that direction, miracles kind of cleanse our mind, they kind of cleanse the film. They wash away the shadows. And some of us have actually, back in the old days of those old movie theaters, where you're in there and sometimes the film burns or snaps. Sometimes it would actually snap or burn, and then the whole screen would go to light.
Yes.
That's like piercing into what we could call Christ's vision. So that's underneath it all. That's what inspires the miracles, is the Christ vision. And then miracles are quite interpersonal. They're still perceptual. So there's so many miracles that will come into your life. Some of you know, like Wayne Dyer and Deepak got into Sai Baba there for a while, and Sai Baba would always manifest jewelry, rings, followers. I had a friend of mine who was in a library one time in Indiana, and she was just praying and sitting there and reading the Sai Baba book, and she was just so filled up with love reading about it. And she got up to get a sandwich, and she came back, and then there was a bracelet, a beautiful bracelet that had manifested right on the book. Sai Baba did a bracelet for her, right? She thought, who did that? And she's looking around for somebody who's pulling her leg or somebody that she knew. She scoured the whole place, the bookstore or library, wherever she was, and there was nobody. She was telling me that, but that it's not necessarily but that's just like a symbol of something that's an out of pattern way of looking at the world, where you have this lightness in your heart and you don't take anything seriously in the world. You're in such lightness, and that perception will lead you back to Christ's vision, which is so don't try to say, why didn't the world disappear this morning, or why is there still a curtain and still a rug and a carpet. It's like, don't try to push the Christ vision. Just know that you'll be used, and it'll cleanse your perception and take you towards that vision.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Candy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think Tamara wrote on the chat, I don't know if you saw it, that she wanted to ask a question as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks again so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Candy. Eric's finding you tomorrow.
Yes.
He's activating your microphone. There you go.
Yeah.
Hi guys.
Hi.
It's so funny because right now the question I have, I'm doing it at the same time. I want to go, do we have time? But anyway, this program is so delicious. So I know one of the things that y'all practice in Camus is the no people pleasing thing. And I'm really realizing as this program is unfolding, because I'm actually at work right now and the client is asleep, and what I want is to be truly helpful. What I want is to lead a 100% spirit-directed life. And this people-pleasing thing, there's, I'm kind of just the tool in this whole system of the work I do. I'm a sober companion, and so there's this whole team of people that has their agenda and things they want me to be accomplishing throughout the day with the client, and it's really bumming my gig, man. Like, I just want to just be in that space of love and following what the next prompt is, and finding that easier and easier in my life. I mean, everything's coming together. I'm about to come to Camus, and everything's been unfolding so beautifully, but it just seems like there's a level of trust that is required when it comes to like the secular world of just going, I'm just going to keep trusting spirit as the ultimate boss. Like the ultimate boss, rather than trying to people please in all these, there's just so many it seems like there's so many agendas. And could you just, I don't know if I really formed that into a real question, but if anything came up for you to talk about it, I would really appreciate it.
Yeah, I think because we're so focused on purpose, and because that mind training has been such a central point, it's been the focal point of everything, that you start to see perception merging and blending together, and what seem to be all these different factions and people to please and agendas, it's with this single, let thine eye be single, when your desire is single, when your focus is single, when you have one intent, and it's become so strong that what you will becomes the will of God, then that will unify perception, and that's where the peace comes in. So yeah, I know it's been a big step for you. It was a big step coming here when you were here before, and I'm sure you have had all kinds of contrast experiences, and you might chalk this up to, okay, here's some more contrast experiences. But for me, when I would have those contrast experiences, I would want to even more than ever, get aligned with my instructor within, the boss, the one who's in charge of the plan of atonement. My heart would be burning for that, because I would just be like Bill Thetford. There has to be a better way than trying to juggle all these different perceptions and encounters, to not upset anybody, to try to smooth things over, and it gets fatiguing. It's just extremely fatiguing. And yet for me, there was this sharp contrast where, I just finally said, okay, here I am, Lord. There's that prayer. I've heard of your coming. I just got to see you when I was in Southern California. I think I heard maybe yesterday, Michael at the monastery is so looking forward to you coming. I feel like when you come and join in the purpose, it's like it really directs the mind. It like channels the mind in a very helpful direction, and just you have such an appreciation for those heart-to-heart contacts, where words are even purposeful, hugs are purposeful, gazing in someone's eyes is extremely purposeful, and I think you'll just be naturally drawn in to what is very intuitive for you, what feels very, very natural. Almost like letting your heart free, letting it soar a bit and fly, and saying, oh yeah, this feels really good. And then you have even more strength. You're like, oh yeah, I knew this, always I knew this. And here I come, I'm coming into it. It strengthens. Through supportive, nurturing relationships too. That's what relationships are for. We're here to heal and bless. We're here to nurture. We're not here to get something from each other. That's the ego with all this getting motive. And that's part of an old conditioning of being human getters instead of human beings. What did you get today? How much did you earn? Did you earn your worth? And, all this trying to prove worthiness, and it's crazy. It's an absolute insane belief system, and yet when we slide into what feels more natural to us, it's like, oh, we can breathe again. We can breathe with a sigh. We can breathe easy instead of a hard breath of trying to strive and struggle. So yeah, I think you're just coming. Just keep your faith and keep coming in the direction you're coming in. And everything will open up. The waters will part. Whatever obstacles are in the way will start to clear away as you give yourself over to this. And that's just the way that the Spirit works. And it's very loving. It's very loving.
Yes, it is. It's been amazing. I just like watching all these little things I thought were insurmountable be just handled. It's just amazing. My heart is just soaring right now. It feels so free.
Yeah.
And yet still doubts, and there's still once in a while a dagger will get thrown like, what are you thinking?
Yeah. Well, Sarah was talking about the ones that go from the virtual and then they come
like I'm watching them
screen.
come out through the screen.
You're another one popping off the screen.
I keep thinking about how cool it'll be to be over there.
oh look. It's a Tamara-shaped hug. I just feel all this gratitude because you're in service in this moment. Like we're all in service in this moment, and all I kept hearing was, "Give it away, give it all away, give all of your love away, give all of the grace, give all of the appreciation that you're sharing about us and this experience that seems to be in the future coming now in this moment. You're in your bedroom." At the monastery here, your mighty companion is in the next room sleeping. Give it all away, give it all away. It's just now, so.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it's been another beautiful episode of
It
Awaken
sure
the
has.
Heart.
It sure has.
And we are off now down to the printers, Alexander's, to go look at the proof of our new book, The Mystical Teachings of Jesus. So that's very exciting. And again, just deep, deep gratitude for everyone who's joined us on Periscope and everyone who's joined us on Zoom. And if you would like to, again, go to livingmiracles.org/LM- virtual. and that's where you'll find all these beautiful shows. And to my guest, David Hoffmeister, thank you very much from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you.
Love you.
Thank you all for coming. Big hug, big kiss.